'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house
Good night, guys.
Sleep well.
See you in the morning.
not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse.
Where is my bedroom?
The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that
I
Saint
think that's lovely, Thomas, but I think I'm going to get some sleep now.
Hello and welcome to Haunting Button House, a BBC Ghost podcast. I feel like we should have sleigh bells over the top of this one. We're recording this in April, but this is the first Christmas special. So, well,
We
that's...
should have been a bit more prepared, shouldn't we? I'm looking around to find sleigh bells because in my house it wouldn't be uncommon for there to be sleigh bells at
Well,
this
with the
time.
magic of editing, don't worry, I can put sleigh bells in the background. You
course.
forget that this is an edited podcast.
I was going to find some on YouTube and I would prefer a brass band actually.
Brass band in the
Yeah.
background. Okay, alright, I'll...
If you can make that happen.
Yes, don't worry. Yeah, so people will be confused for a bit and then realise what the hell's happening.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I'm Luke. I don't know if I mentioned, and I'm joined by Tash.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm alright, thanks Luke. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Yeah, so we were off last week, as people may have seen, may have heard, not heard.
Our regulars
Yeah.
would know. Well, we had a first anniversaries and our own first death day to contend with.
Mm-hmm.
So we had some time. We thought we might be able to record, and then we realised that it wasn't going to happen. So,
Yeah.
but that does mean that instead of 2 weeks in between the two series, so last time between series 1 and 2 we had 2 weeks off, and we were going to do the same this time. There'll only be a 1 week break, you lucky things. So we'll be back, we'll have a 1 week break next week, and then we'll be back with series 3 the week after, so
Yeah,
not
so
too long to wait.
Straight into it. But talking of which, well, I was just about to go straight into the episode, but is there anything else we need to mention before we...
Well, we have had some feedback, but maybe we can merge it all together at the end when we look at like the series feedback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I suppose with that we might as well just get straight into the episode this week.
Cool.
So this week we are looking at the Christmas special, the first Christmas special. So I wouldn't say it's like the 7th episode, so it's just the first Christmas special, entitled The Ghost of Christmas. It was directed by Tom Kingsley, written by Ben Wilbond.
Have you written
I've
Willibot?
written it right.
What?
I've written
Oh,
it
okay.
right. My brain has like sort of incepted that now. And it was also written by Simon Farnaby, which makes sense, I suppose. The original air date was the 23rd of December 2020.
So it didn't quite get the Christmas Day that we had on Series 5.
No, it tends to be that like Christmas specials tend to get closer to Christmas Day as they get more popular, I suppose. So yeah, it makes sense that this is sort of a few days before. So we start and we see Julian in a barely populated House of Commons. He's giving a speech about how important family is, especially at this time at Christmas. I won't go into the details of his speech. I wouldn't be able to do it justice. But his closing point is family, as it hard cuts into him drinking at a Christmas party with all his parliamentary colleagues, I guess. Interrupted by a phone call from his wife, who's upset that he's not coming home for Christmas. I like how as he's taking the call he says to somebody else, "Oh, it's just some woman from my wedding," which is the most
Classic
Julian,
Julian,
most Julian thing you could say about your own wife. And he's basically just trying to do everything to get back to this party. Starts making excuses that he can't hear her over the baby crying, and definitely doubles down on this as soon as he sees some younger office sort of worker around him, taking a bite of a sausage.
Suggestive
suggestively.
sausage.
Yeah, a suggestive sausage is one way to describe it. And yeah, basically tries to just cut off the call. And then we go into the intro. So this is just a brief glimpse of.
I feel like the intro music was a bit jingled up.
I didn't notice it actually.
Or was it
but yeah,
jingled at the end?
It could
I
be
feel
both.
like it was jingled at the end.
Not jingled all the way.
Not jingled all the way, just jingled half the way towards the end.
Yeah, I didn't notice it to be honest, but I think I was typing notes at the time.
I've got to be honest, sometimes I skip it.
Yeah,
I do skip the intro sometimes.
I think when you're like trying to do your notes and stuff, that tends to be just like a few seconds where you either like are writing notes or you just like get to the next bit so I can continue reviewing. So yeah, so maybe let us know if it was any different. Back in the present, we see Mike is preparing his Christmas dinner. What does everyone call it? I'm not sure.
I think it's Christmas dinner.
Christmas
know
dinner.
you have it at lunchtime, or
Yeah.
most people have it at lunchtime, but I do think it's Christmas dinner.
Yeah. I think most people say Christmas dinner, but
Christmas. Some people probably do say Christmas lunch, but
Christmas breakfast. It blew my mind that when every time I heard wedding breakfast, I just assumed it was a breakfast, not a full-on meal that you have just at your wedding.
I think it's supposed to be that like it's the first meal that you have as married people, but who cares?
Yeah, I don't know.
Disappointing. Were you expecting sausage and bacon? Or
I mean, it was nice, but it's not breakfast. I mean, it's an extravagant breakfast if that's what you're having every day. But
three-course breakfast.
Yeah. But yes, the ghosts are all watching Mike get his spuds ready. Pat's happy that he's doing them in beef dripping. He says he knows his onions, and then sort of
I never
pauses.
understood that. Why did he say he knows his onions?
It's like just a saying, isn't it? Like,
Is it?
Yeah, I think
I've
so.
never
yeah.
heard that before.
I can't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know where it comes from, but yeah,
Yorkshire, probably.
probably yeah. No impact. Yeah. Alison tells Mike that she's wearing something very sexy, to which Thomas bursts through the wall, and she walks in a Christmas jumper and is sort of disappointing to Thomas. It's got a nice. It's just like a reindeer kind of one, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what it was.
Is it reindeer with a scarf?
Possibly, yeah. Yes, it does, because it has like a little bell on it with a scarf. Whereas Alison says that Mike's isn't very Christmassy, and he's a bit annoyed and just says it has a reindeer on it. So I'm on Mike's vibe this Christmas.
I can't even say I'm on Alison's vibe because I feel like I'm Alison times 50 when it comes to Christmas.
True, yeah. So, well, we shall see. Mike is basically the Christmas planner this year. He's taken over doing the Christmas dinner and everything else that's entailed to it. He actually has made a whiteboard with his master plan on it, which the captain is really impressed with. Sort of says that, the things that he would do if he had a whiteboard. Did you notice any of the steps on the whiteboard?
I was trying to look at them,
Yeah.
but to be fair, I was watching it on quite a small screen, so I didn't get to look. Did you notice
I
them?
paused them. Normal steps. My favourite step though was step 11, which was remember point, and then it just had a dash Jesus. So yeah. That was my, but that was like midway through, like preparing the sprouts and everything.
You can't forget.
That is true.
Reason,
He's the reason. Yeah. So he's just saying that he wants to do everything. He doesn't want his parents or his family to worry about anything or have to sort of stress over anything. He says that they know that what they're like. We hear Julian say in the background, humbug, to which Alison thinks, oh, do you just not like Christmas? He does, but he was just referring to the jar of humbugs that was on the table. And he says that it's no fun when you're dead, basically. He says there's no booze or fillies, is his words.
Did Julian die at Christmas then?
I don't think so, no.
Because that's kind of when we saw him at the beginning when he was talking to his wife on the phone. I thought, maybe I missed that this was like when he died, so maybe
no,
not.
I think I can't remember exactly what it was. It's some kind of party. That
Tory
the
party,
Tory
yeah.
party like conference or something like that. Yeah.
I don't know why. I just thought, oh, maybe this is where we learn about him. And then I thought, no, we can't.
Yeah, I thought it was in this episode, but as we went on, I was like, oh no, it's
can't be,
later
yeah.
on. Yeah, so I don't think it's at Christmas, but he's not.
But they
really...
must have. It looked like he was in Button House though when he was on the phone, or maybe he wasn't.
I think it's just like
Any kind of house.
some
that
kind.
looks,
Yeah, I was gonna say like
stately home.
I
kind of
think
thing.
what's it called? The Houses of Common offices and stuff like that kind of look like stately homes, don't they? So yeah, the ghosts all talk about what they miss about Christmas the most. Pat says he misses, well, he misses board games, but specifically he has 4 in mind.
He says, I still get a tingle in my dingle on Christmas Eve,
Yeah.
but it is hard with the memories of what you had.
That is true.
Yeah.
The captain misses the King's speech, or no, the Queen's speech.
Yeah.
And now back to the King's speech again. I
Yeah,
suppose,
it is.
So. Thomas misses mistletoe. He thinks he's never going to be kissed again. And Kitty misses, again, in typical Kitty fashion, just absolutely drops a harrowing story just as it's normal. That she used to open her presents and her sister used to come in her room and take the presents that she wanted. Okay.
What would you miss about Christmas if you couldn't have it again?
Ooh. Probably the dinner.
Yeah, I thought
Christmas
the dinner.
dinner's pretty good, to be fair.
The music.
The music.
Like, there's so many bangers at Christmas.
We do have a lot of good Christmas.
Good.
But they tend to be just on constant rotation now. Like, we've got our Christmas set locked in, and it's like every now and again they'll be like, they've made a new Christmas song, and we'll be like, okay, fair enough.
It's not a classic.
It's
though,
no, I don't feel like there's been a new good addition since The Darkness, basically. Trying to think of like a good new one. Is that an idea?
Shelley's.
Sure.
There's gotta be.
Yeah. Kelly Clarkson's one's okay.
That is a good one.
That's a good one. That's fairly recent. But I can't think of anything else other than that. It's few and far between.
Yeah.
But I wonder, like, we're always like, oh, they've all these old songs were really good ones, but they're probably about 2 years, 3 years apart from one another.
Yeah, definitely. Although, didn't Slade and Wizard come out on the same year?
Did they? No,
I think
that's
so.
a pretty good year for Christmas.
What, imagine a time to be alive that was. Anyway.
So yeah, talking of fading out and sort of not having relevance, Robin thinks that Christmas is a bit of a fad. They sort of mention that, you know, it's 2,000 years old, how can it be a fad? And he said, oh, you know, in another 2,000 years nobody will remember it. So he's not sold on the whole Christianity thing, I don't think. Alison makes a note that they need to have carols to Mike's plan, to which I honestly think this is the best joke of the episode. Is she writes Carol down at the end. Pat goes, "Oh, Carol's coming," and he says, "No, not your wife."
So sad.
It's quite sad.
It's awful.
But also really funny.
I heard you laughing.
Yeah. But she sort of says, no, we're singing carols. And Mike says, oh, his family's not going to be into that. And true to form, later on, we'd find out that they're not really into this. Mike's parents eventually arrive. I've completely forgotten to write down his mom's name. I've got his dad's name. I don't remember what his mom's name was.
Is it Angela?
I feel like it is. Mike's doing some live research on the air now. So help me, Van.
Spanish flea.
I'm not doing this again. Mike, ghosts, mother. Betty.
Oh,
Betty.
where did I get Angela from?
Betty is his mom's name. So it's Betty and Errol, and his two sisters as well. And Angela, I think, or it is one of the sisters' names. Isn't it?
Maybe.
I think. It's sisters Layla and Angela. Yes,
okay.
yes. Yeah, so it did come from somewhere. So yeah, his family arrive. This is the first time we meet them actually, because I know his mom especially becomes like a recurring
I was
character.
interested to see if his mum was the same actress later on, and it is. So,
yeah. I can't remember if we see any of his the rest of his family.
I don't think so.
But his mom definitely comes back up. Fanny, as they're sort of walking out, says, when are they going to put up the Christmas tree? She sort of points at the one that they have, this little tiny fake one, I guess. I'm not really sure. And Fanny's not into this tiny Christmas bush, as she calls it.
It is a pretty terrible tree.
It isn't great, especially when you have a big house like that.
Yeah, you need a statement tree.
I feel like
multiple trees.
I feel like when you've got a little house, a small tree's fine because it's like, we don't want to take up the entire room. Mike's sister Angela has also brought her daughter Nancy, and while they're sort of while Mary and Kitty are sort of checking on her, Kitty's surprised that the baby is looking at her and reacting to her, and Mary says that ghosts can actually see.
Children
cats.
can see ghosts.
So I was going to say cats.
Shelley on the brain.
Yeah. Children can see ghosts up until the point that they can walk, basically. And we also see that Mike's parents have bought a lot more food to this party than they were asked, including beef. They said it's just sides.
Side of beef.
It's a side of beef. Which Mike is really pissed off about, and to be honest, with reason.
Yeah, you would be annoyed.
Yeah,
it's a bit like horrible grandma on Friday night dinner.
Yeah, true.
And she brings her own turkey.
Yeah. So Alison says that Angela can use Julian's room. Well, she doesn't say it's Julian's room, but the room that Julian is in, and Julian sort of initially takes a fancy to this, at having a young woman in his room, but is immediately sort of taken out of it when he realises it's also with a baby, and he just doesn't want to deal with that. As this is sort of happening, she's commenting that it's her husband's not there at this time of year, or is not with her, and Julian just assumes that he's as bad as he is, sort of says that he's practicing his hangover. And then we find out that he's not actually. He's a paramedic, so quite a selfless person. So at this point, Julian goes over to the baby and sort of looks down, and we sort of get throughout this episode we kind of get flashbacks, or at least like insights into what Julian's thinking. And we see him in I think it says Brussels, but it's like. Because he says he's in Brussels, isn't he? Doing like some kind of trade talk. I assumed naturally it would be Amsterdam. I don't know why, but I think it's just like the red light district in Brussels or something. But he's there telling his wife that he's actually having some kinds of talks. He says, once I've finished with this, you'll never hear about the European Union again. So. Took him a few years, but he finally got his wish. But yeah, he's lying to his wife, and he says that he just doesn't want to. Well, he can't hear her over the crying again. Back downstairs, we see Mike and his parents are in the kitchen, and as Mike is trying to sort of lay out everything that he's prepared and set up, they're kind of taking over and just doing their own thing in the kitchen. Which again really annoys him, and with reason. I think if you're hosting, I think take it outside of Christmas. If you were like hosting a dinner with somebody and they just came into the kitchen and just started working on stuff, you'd be like, what is happening here? Mike's mom hangs up some mistletoe as well as they're going through. Thomas sort of sees, because it falls off the door frame, and Alison picks it up and puts it back. Thomas sees her do this, and naturally, in Thomas fashion, gets the wrong idea.
Sees that as his way in.
Yeah. He's one of these type of people that sees he's what do they call them? Like nice guys, where if any woman is nice to them, they're like, they love me. You know what I mean? Like that kind of person. But a 17th century version, obviously, or 18% anyway. Let's not get into that. So his sisters then are also watching, because they're seeing Mike get really annoyed about this, about all this happening. They're sort of talking about how he lost his temper last year, and they've dubbed him the Incredible Sulk, as they have this remix video of him getting upset, which Kitty finds great joy in. She calls him Lime Man at one point because they sort of make him into a lime.
How original. No, like Lime Man.
Lime Man, yeah. We see Alison then trying to talk to Mike about getting a tree, and you can kind of tell something's up with the way she's speaking. It's quite I don't know what the word would be, classical, the way she's speaking, I guess. And we see that's because Fanny is standing right next to her, basically telling her what to say about finding a better tree, because they can they have trees in the grounds, they can cut one down and put one in there. So Mike agrees. He says that he's going to go and cut down a tree. Well, his dad says he will initially, and he says, no, I'm going to do it, you just stay here, relax. He'll get to cut down this tree. As they're outside, we see Fanny talking about how they planted saplings years ago, and obviously that being
quite a while ago,
being hundreds of years ago, the tree is now absolutely massive. All Mike has is an axe, and I love how I don't know if it's always been like this, but the captain's lines are just full of innuendos, because he says something like, you need to hold your chopper and give it one thumb like strike or something like that.
I never picked up on that.
And I'm like, he does this a lot actually. It's like a carry-on film with him, I suppose, if you listen to it. But as Mike is preparing to chop down the tree, his dad has beat him to it. He has a chainsaw and is cutting down a much smaller tree. It's much more manageable, which again annoys Mike that his dad's taken over. We see Julian trying to calm down the baby in this room. He decides to do this with a severed head, being Humphrey. Mary comes in to say what's wrong with the baby and says that she needs what does she call them now? Yippies or nippies or something? Not nippies. It's like that. And I mean, at this point, basically goes to flash the baby because there's nothing she can do in this situation. So their sort of quietening tactics for this baby are interesting. I'll say that. We go to later in the evening now, and Mike again is they're trying to sort of take over things. Like when he goes back downstairs, his dad has disappeared. He's doing the dishes or something like that, and his mom is ironing because they both said they need to do something useful. Mm-hmm. So Mike kind of loses it a little bit and tells them, we're all going to go to bed and tackle it all in the morning. I do like at this point as well, Robin comments that a tree in the living room is nonsense. Which,
I think earlier when he says that Christmas will never catch on.
Yes, yeah. He's really not sold on all that. To be fair though, when you think of it, a tree in the living room is a weird tradition. You know what I mean? Like, why is that all of a sudden a thing? Yeah. But we do it apparently. So, sorry, I'm just getting to the next bit. We then hear Thomas reciting the is it a poem, Night Before Christmas? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was I think poem book, I guess.
Something like that, yeah. But he's doing it in the most creepy way possible by standing over Alison as she's trying to sleep. And she sort of tells him, you don't need to do that. Mike comes in and says basically he's fed up of his parents treating him like a child, but then immediately loses all of his credibility as they turn out the lights. They hear his mom sneaking in with a sack full of presents, and he gets excited about what he's got in the sack of presents. I
think he knows that it's pants and socks, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, and some.
Oh, and
links.
deodorant. Yeah.
I assume it's links. Yeah. But yeah, everyone's now gone to bed, including all of the ghosts. The only one that isn't is Nancy, Mike's sister, because the baby.
Nancy's the baby.
Nancy will not stop crying. So Nancy, the baby, is crying, so it's keeping it up Angela, and Julian at this point is just infuriated, and he goes back to his sort of patterns of what he was like in life. He said that he's going to take the Jag for a drive, which impossible. He decides he's going to hide in a fridge, which doesn't help, as he's he can still hear the baby. So he's then driven into the woods in kind of this weird psychedelic sort of thing where he just sees his head. Kind of look like what's that video now? Bohemian Rhapsody with a in the like black and whatnot. And this is where he starts to feel guilty, and he starts being like sort of plagued by all the sort of excuses that he's used to skip out on like his Christmases. One of them being that he doesn't want to spend this time at Colonel Gaddafi's palace. Now, I am very intrigued what a Colonel Gaddafi Christmas party would be like, to be honest.
Who is Colonel?
He was a Libyan dictator.
Right.
I'm trying to think of like, I don't know, he's just not a nice person, to be honest.
Fair enough.
I imagine his palace was probably like absolutely minted. He was one of these type of dictators who cared more about his life than the people, just like the rest of the world. Anyway, the next morning after this, we do see Julian sort of do the classic sort of drop into his knees and screaming as well. But the next morning, we see everybody giving gifts to one another. We also have Robin.
I was going to say, you're going to miss
Yes.
the most important thing of the whole episode.
Obviously not.
Is when Robin does his Noddy Holder impression.
He does, yeah.
And he does it very well.
He does, yeah. Pat's impressed. He says it's exactly like it.
Yeah.
So, and
Considering he's never probably heard of Noddy Holder, isn't it? So.
No, yeah. He might have seen him on YouTube.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Mary also gets really dark. She sees the baby and says, "Oh, I'm surprised you made it through the night." It's like, what does that mean? We see all of the alive people being given their gifts, and then Alison sort of insinuates that she's going to go and give the ghosts their gifts, as Mike sort of distracts them. So Alison goes into the library, gives Kitty a snow globe that she says looks like Button House, and she also gives the rest of the ghosts Twister, which Pat sees straight away, and he's over the moon with this. We also see Thomas standing under the mistletoe, ready for his kiss, that just never seems to come.
No.
When Alison goes back into the front room, we see that Mike is now donning his onesie from the video we saw earlier, where he lost his cool about being forced to wear it, but he's trying to keep it under wraps. He's like, no, this is fine. They're all laughing at him, but he's okay. The ghosts all give Twister a go, including the captain, who then manages to encourage Thomas to get into giving a Twister. I was going to say Twitter a go then. Twister a go. I really like this sort of image of 4 ghosts from different period of history playing Twister. I did think, what people from history, if you could just put 4 people from history into a game of Twister, who would you pick? But I struggle to try to pick those. So that's a question for the listeners, I think. What 4 people from history would you stick in a game of Twister? Unless you've got some. I won't put you on the spot like that.
It's hard because history is a long time.
It is a long time.
So you've got to really think about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't even think of someone off the top of my head.
I reckon Napoleon, because I reckon he would not be into that nonsense.
His hat would get in the way.
His hat would get in the way, yeah. I feel like he'd just like be completely nonplussed.
Have they got to be dead? So it can't be anyone current.
As a ghost, I would imagine so.
Oh,
yeah. Sorry.
I just meant in general, could anyone play Twister?
Yeah.
I
I suppose I did say through history, so it could be
didn't
anybody.
specify it had to be a ghost.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yeah. Okay. That's silly,
it's
me.
It's very difficult, isn't it? Probably like people who, or like to get some drama, you'd probably have to pick people that you know wouldn't get on.
Yeah.
Because they'd have to be like really close to each other.
Who would you pick that wouldn't get on? We'll leave it there. Mike at this point goes and finds that his mom and dad are again doing stuff in the kitchen. They're like preparing food that Mike's already prepared, and he's like, "You don't need to do this." Fanny keeps asking about these decorations for the tree as well, because they've mentioned that there's some classic traditional, should I say, decorations are in the attic, and Alison sort of said, "Oh, I've not had a chance to look for them yet." And as this is all happening, we hear that the Twister game has gone completely out of control. As the captain and Thomas are now sort of wrestling. Pat says that they've stopped the girls from playing, so Kitty and Mary had
Just stood there,
just watching as these two children are grappling on the floor. Pat storms off, says he's gonna have a can of Whitley's, is it, or something like that? Whatley's, begins with a W. And goes to his said he's going to go to his shed, and we see at this point that Angela has taken Nancy back to her room to get her to sleep as well, which Julian again is really annoyed by, and starts just ranting at the baby, mainly for the fact that they are a baby, and starts doing hand gestures and shaking his head like in typical Julian fashion, and this manages to stop the baby from crying, and then he's going back to try and trace back what stops her, and he figures out it's the Newsnight thumbs that stop him.
Is that when you just don't point?
Yeah, don't point. It's like
you still got your thumb sticking out.
No. That's the parliamentary point. That is.
Oh, it's this, isn't it?
It's the Newsnight thumbs, apparently. Yeah.
Because obviously everyone can see what I'm doing.
Yeah. This is more of a visual element to this, but just imagine what you what you could imagine there.
Imagine what you could imagine.
What you can imagine.
Whoa!
I might have drugs. And this manages to calm her down, and then he sees that Angela has now has gone to sleep, has managed to actually sort of nod off while he's been entertaining her, so decides to just continue talking to the baby at this point. We see so they've sort of separated the ghosts now. The captain is in the room waiting for he's in this kind of TV room waiting for Alison to turn on the radio so he can listen to the Queen's speech, and she says no, it's on TV now, and
not on the wireless,
which kind of offends the captain because he thinks this is too private. We should not be seen into the Queen's.
Do you want to see the Queen's curtains?
We don't see the Queen's curtains, which again sounds a bit innuendo. But yes, I did like as well in I was thinking about this, like, is this a so obviously everybody in the UK knows the Queen's speech, that's just something that happens. Does like America have, like, because I know we have
the president address the country?
Does the president address everybody on like Christmas?
Well, I know that we have some American listeners, so hopefully they can let us know.
That's what I was wondering, like, if there's something similar across the pond, or do they just go, no, that's silly pomp and circumstance that only the UK would do.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, possibly. We see Thomas under the mistletoe again, and he sees Alison coming towards him, and he thinks finally this is his time. She even says, "Oh, are you ready?" and stuff like this. Sort of. I can't remember what she's actually talking to him about at that point. But anyway, Thomas, regardless, thinks that this is the moment where he's going to get his Christmas kiss. So sort of puckers up, and just in front of his face, Mike's mom and dad give a little Christmas kiss themselves under the mistletoe, and the mistletoe, and that's staying in. And he's disgusted by this, that some other people would be kissing right in front of his face. And he says that they need to take down the mistletoe, and again, it's kind of showing that all the ghosts are not having the best Christmas.
Or Mike, by the sounds.
Yes, as we now see them at their Christmas dinner table. It's a specific one that they get out. And as they're sort of tucking into everything, they're kind of commenting on how all of the food at the table now is the stuff that Mike's parents brought, and they kind of say that he didn't do anything for this party. And finally he snaps and starts saying that they're treating him like a child, they're not letting him be in control of this, which is a good point, and I think it's a serious point to take. But he completely loses all credibility when he cannot take his reindeer onesie off, and he just keeps trying to pull at the zip to no avail, and just storms off dressed as a reindeer in the end. Alison says that she's going to go after him, but Mike's dad, who's named Errol, which I don't think they mention it, but yeah, he's named Errol. Says that he'll go and speak to Mike. Upstairs, we see that the ghosts are all talking about Christmas, and they kind of are all complaining about how it's not that great.
I can see absolutely everything. It was an intrusion. I mean, what's next? Taking pictures of them on holiday, I should imagine. The world's gone mad.
Well, at least you got your Christmas wishes.
Yes, I don't even know why I bothered asking. It was never going to be the same.
I actually quite liked my present, but I suppose it's a shame that I can't really do anything with it.
It's all holly-tinted spectacles, Kitty. You think it's fun, but it's not. The game's always ended up with the boys arguing and me drinking botanies in the shed. Oh, let's face it, family Christmases suck eggs.
It's supposed to suck eggs, Pat. I had a daughter, you know. She was only 4 years old when I died, yet I managed to miss every single Christmas with her. I missed them all. Missed the crying, the screaming, the sleepless nights. Thought I was so clever avoiding all that, but now I realize it's all part of it. Your family is supposed to drive you bonkers at Christmas. The tree's never straight. The parlor games are never as hilarious as they were last year. Someone always gives you a duff present. You always end up kissing the wrong person under the mistletoe. Been there a few times, I can tell you, but that's the point. Christmas isn't supposed to be perfect. That's what makes the whole thing so bloody Christmassy, isn't it? So, let's not get too down on the old family Christmas just yet, eh? Maybe we should just feel grateful that we're having one at all. I never even knew what I was missing. Family, family, family.
I thought this was surprisingly poignant of a moment, especially for Julian. I don't think we've seen Julian be serious at all for any of the episodes. He's always this kind of comedic, sort of over the top, right wing kind of character.
I think it showed him guilty. Like it was genuine emotion, wasn't it? Rather than just.
I think this is probably as well the first time he's genuine. We always hear him talking about stories and stuff like that from his past, but it kind of always comes across as lies and or exaggerations, whereas this is the only time that he's genuine. I don't know what else to say about it, but we hear piano playing downstairs, and before we go downstairs we see Mike sort of in one of their rooms upstairs, just kind of sectioned himself off, just playing a computer game, and his dad comes in and starts to tell Mike why they're doing what they're doing, and basically that they want to be able to do things while they can do things. He says that they're not going to be able to do this forever, so they're scared and want to be able to do this while they can. And this is the reason why they're kind of always active and always doing something. Which Mike kind of, at this point now, understands where they're coming from. But he does say, well, is the one thing you can do for me? And we kind of get the idea from this is to kind of listen to Alison's carols. As we go back downstairs, we see that she's playing the piano and she's playing In the Bleak Midwinter, which is a bit of a dreary carol, to be honest. If you're going to do any carol, like, is there no more upbeat one? But I don't know. All the other ghosts seem to enjoy it.
I think that's the point, though, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Is it's maybe not like
Jingle bells.
yeah, because Christmas isn't like that for them. Like, although, you know, they've said like Christmas is a bit rubbish when you're dead, and Julian's kind of made them see like a different point, but that's still the point still stands, that they're not with their families and having what would be considered a normal Christmas. So I think it's a good choice of a carol, really.
Yeah. That it's not perfect, I suppose, which is kind of Julian's point from earlier. But yeah, we see all the ghosts joining in, including the plague ghosts downstairs.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice touch, really.
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen them in this episode.
I think as the series goes on, you kind of see them less and less, and they just pop up like once a series and stuff like that when they need to. So yeah, this is our kind of little glimpse of them in the Christmas special.
I do feel like this point of this, of when they're singing the carol, was not that I hadn't enjoyed it up to that point, because I wouldn't have carried on watching it, but I do feel like that was a real turning point. Like I don't know, it makes you see it as it's not just a comedy, and it's not just an episode for the sake of it. Like, it adds real depth to a lot of the characters. So yeah, I thought, and I mean, so like emotive, isn't it? Like, it's an emotive song anyway, and I think it's like kind of sweet when Alison is singing, but then when Thomas joins in, you're like, okay,
they're all
this
all
is
good.
like, you know. So
I think definitely from like the Julian bit onwards, I think we get this kind of like more of emotional sort of
reflective as well.
It feels like I think most Christmas specials are like this. Like, I tend to find is they're kind of all joking and stuff like that, but there's a serious message about either Christmas or family or something like that in there. So this kind of fits that sort of cliche, I suppose. Like, it's not that bad, but you know what I mean, like that kind of style. When she finishes her carol, we see Mike and the rest of his family all applauding. And this was obviously what Mike asked them to do, because they previously had said that they don't like carols. And also Alison decides at this moment that this is the perfect time to give Thomas a little kiss. So she does so, and he has his back to her and doesn't even notice that it's happening. So he's been waiting all day for this and then completely missed the moment, which probably sums up this analogy of Christmas not being perfect to a T. And then we see the sort of final part of this. Julian decides that he wants to find out what his daughter actually did. You know, he mentioned that he died when she was 4, so he never saw what she grew into, and wants to find out. He is worried that she's become a did he say just a drug addict?
No, a drug addict or an alternative comedian.
Yeah.
As if like both of those things are on par with each other.
I imagine, though, to be fair, like the alternative comedians just constantly stuck the boot into the Tories, so I imagine that it's just like, no, we don't want that. But when he Googles her, Rachel Fawcett, we find out that she had become an MP and she'd followed in his footsteps. Although then Pat says, "What's the Green Party?" and Julian kind of just says, "Nobody's perfect." So yeah, we get this kind of all tied up in a bow at the end. And then we see everybody celebrating Christmas and Robin lying on the floor scratching like a dog as it sort of pans out and we see Button House kind of like the snow globe. Oh, because before this Alison shakes the snow globe for Kitty, and then we kind of pan out and see that in large scale, I guess. And that's the end of the episode. So what do you think?
Where do I start? It's just a great episode, and like I think one I was most looking forward to, I suppose.
Yeah,
like I knew it was coming up, but yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, Christmas. I love Christmas.
I was going to say, to be fair, a Christmas episode was always going to land, wasn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, I wrote festive decorations, Christmas carols, Queen's speech, Noddy Holder impression, Twister, and Spuds in beef dripping. It had, like, my score's absolutely 10 out of 10.
Wow.
Yeah, this is my first 10 out of 10.
Fair enough, yeah.
Definitely. I think it's, yeah, and I think the bit where they all around the piano with Alison, like, is such an important moment. And I think it not only shows us, gives us more depth to each of the characters and each of the ghosts that they come together and do this. Still a lot of questions on, how did Robin know the words? But like we'll move past that. Yeah. We will move. But I think it's just a really important moment. Brings the characters together as well.
Yeah.
And like who doesn't love sitting around the piano at Christmas and singing carols?
But I've never done it, to be honest.
Maybe neither. Well, no, probably not. But it's the dream. But yeah, absolutely, like 10 out of 10. Like I knew this was a 10 out of 10 before I even watched the episode, just from memory of listening to it. So yeah, that's why my other episodes ratings have been low, because they just don't compare to that one. And I think all of the Christmas episodes are really good. Maybe that's just because I love Christmas. If you don't love Christmas, maybe you don't find the those episodes as good. So yeah, that's my sort of final thoughts on it. What about you?
Probably not as strong as you.
Wow.
I don't think. Yeah, I remember liking this more when I first watched it. I like this. It's really, really sweet, and I like the Julian story. I think that's a really important sort of message for a Christmas episode, and it's also from a character you don't expect. But I thought it was quite just, I don't know what the word is for it. It's not simple, because like I don't think it is that, but like the plot was sort of, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out the right words to say. I don't know. It didn't hit with me this time as it did the first time. I remember liking it more the first time I watched it. So I'm going to give it a 7.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I was I thought it was good, but I don't know. I was like not. I didn't think it was as good as like last week's or the week before's episode.
I'm floored. I thought you were going to give it like a 9 or an 8.5, but a 7.
I don't
now
know.
I can see why listeners are pissed off when we give it low scores, because I can't believe that.
Yeah.
What more could it have been?
I don't know.
What more would you want?
I don't know. I don't know what it was. I didn't think there was as many jokes in it as well. Like in this episode, like.
Does it have to be funny?
It's a good point. Does it have to?
Do you know what? I'm not going to question you on your score, because your score is your score. And, like, you can have your opinion even though it's wrong. No.
Well...
I'm just really surprised. I definitely didn't think you'd give it a 10 out of 10. But I definitely didn't think you'd score as low as a 7. Like, yeah.
Well, do you want to hear the rest of the world's score? Well, 654 people's score. They gave it an 8.2. So... I mean, kind of in the middle of that.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess if you take an average, then yeah, definitely.
Probably.
I'm just really surprised it's such a low score.
I don't know. I remember like other Christmas specials as well, and I remember liking them. So I don't know what it was that just didn't click with me on this one. So
Fair enough.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not too sure.
So, will you have played Tasha's spooky segment / corner /
I don't feel like it's appropriate for
Not
this bit, is
really,
it?
no.
Tasha's Christmas Crimbles or something.
Crimbles.
I'm not doing another one. I'll just put some jingle bells over there.
Okay, that's fine. So, kind of, a lot of the feedback is like merged, which is not a bad thing. So I'll kind of go through each of the bits of feedback that we had. So some of it's just on the last episode, and some of it is like on the series as a whole. So we've had quite a lot of feedback. So Nick, who recommended that we look at Bosworth Hall, which we did not last week, obviously the week before. They said that it's local to where they grew up, and they were always fascinated by the story of the lady and her blood stain. So.
All right. Okay. Fair enough. Did we talk about that one on the?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Do you not remember?
It's been 2 weeks. I can't remember.
The dad got like really hacked off that she was meeting up with the gardener's son.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
Then
Got her in the man trap. Yeah, I
she
remember
got
the man
caught,
trap.
and then she dragged
Died.
her mangled body back to her room.
Yeah, I remember it now.
Woo!
Merry Christmas.
So Nick says that Perfect Day is a great episode. Captain dancing at the wedding makes me laugh so much, and Robin's monogamy monopoly metaphor comments are so funny. And just looking forward to our thoughts on the Christmas special. So you'll have to let us know what you think of our thoughts on the Christmas special. Laura says that she's listening to the podcast from Oceanside, CA, California. So another American listener, and said that we asked the audience to share our favourite character, and theirs is Robin, because he has the wittiest comments. So
He does,
Robin is great.
Surprising for a caveman.
For a caveman, yeah. Kelsey, who we don't know in real life, who we know. Kelsey said, I was going to attempt to put some sort of feedback together, but can I just say that I absolutely full on belly laughed when Luke had made you a little spooky theme tune and accidentally changed the name. Typing it now and I can't stop laughing. So.
Genuinely didn't realise until it like
I know.
happened. I was like, oh yeah.
You were so proud to like give that.
I was like, listen to this, and he was like, you've done it wrong. I was like, oh no.
Oh no. But then Cheryl has suggested we change it completely, and it's Tash's Terrifying Tales.
I'm gonna have to ask.
No, that would. Why did we not come up with that? 'Cause
the alliteration works.
was what we were looking for, really.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to do it again.
I mean, we'll see. Oh, I don't know if I can be. If I can just re-edit it again.
Yes, you can.
You can't.
Well, you're gonna have to try.
Nope.
So Tony says that he doesn't think that we're being overly critical, and for the most part, their episode scores are close to what ours are.
We'll have to see after this episode.
Yes, you'll have to let us know. And Tony said that they found the BBC version after watching the US version and caught the based on at the end, and was intrigued and genuinely think that the BBC version is better. I mean, obviously we're going to be biased for the British version, but from I've joined like a few groups on Facebook of people that like ghost Facebook groups, and some are like, I think it's CBS in America and BBC. They're like for both of the versions, people do tend to seem to like the BBC version better.
I think it sometimes like just being the original gets at the edge.
Yeah.
Not that to say that that's a good like sort of indicator of whether something's good or not, but I think sometimes people go, "Oh, the original's better because."
And there's so many more episodes. And I think sometimes you can have too much of a good thing.
That sometimes is my put off with like TV shows when they've got like ridiculous amounts of episodes. Like I've always wanted to watch Arrested Development, but there's just so many episodes, like for quite a short series as well. Or short in terms of seasons, I guess. But yeah.
Maybe those who have watched the US version will have to let us know if it's worth watching, and then we can go and watch it after this.
Well, yeah.
So Marianne says that in the last episode there was so much going on, and Kitty thrown up was very spectacular. Yeah, that was was a lot to see there. The vicar and Mike sledging to the mansion was a great touch. And Julian, as expected, leering at the bridesmaids, Captain and his organisational and decorating skills, and Keith, who shot Pat, showing up for the event, and the apology at the tree was amazing. And Fanny getting her nose out of joint at a gay wedding dynamics, and Humphrey talking her through it. I like Humphrey's head, he's a good fellow. So yeah, he's not in it a lot, but he sort of... Yeah, he... I
like how they described it as Humphrey's head, and it's like he's literal as well. Yeah.
The brides and Mike and Alison's miscommunications made for a very engaging and sweet episode. So Marianne said that they'd rate it a 9.25. So.
How far do we get with the decimal point?
Yeah. 9.25.6. So I think this is something that we mentioned in the last episode, that it wasn't like ha funny. And Marianne said that maybe I'm just appreciating the UK ghost versus the UK ghost, which often is a half hour of stand-up comedy type stuff. This is one of my favourite episodes. So. Alison says, so in the last episode, that she really likes the episode, and especially the fight scene, and the fight and what the fight and what the people with pulses could see. I think that's a great way to describe it. I think you said earlier the alive people, and I was like, I remember Alison commenting that people with pulses was quite a good way to phrase it. So Alison said this episode marks a turning point for Fanny as she begins to develop some understanding that the attitudes of her time may not have been that great and may have been responsible for a happy marriage and death. So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, to see her kind of change her thoughts. And I was thinking about this actually after we recorded, and obviously I don't want to go too much into this, but in my opinion, it just proves that, I know it's fiction, but it proves that you can change.
Oh yeah.
You know, just because you've been brought up to think a certain way doesn't mean that you have to think that way forever. So I think if Fanny's thought this way for however many hundreds of years, you know, there's definitely room for other people to change their thoughts.
Which is why, like, there's always a debate with this, like, cancellation stuff. Like, I mean, it's a big topic, I'm not going to bring this up now, but of like, if you just constantly go, no, that person's the worst person ever, they'll never ever learn, and it's like, well, where do you go from there? But also it's frustrating sometimes trying to teach people.
Alison also said that the scenes with Pat and Kevin were also very touching and beautifully shot. I think I said earlier that his name is Keith. I can't remember what.
I thought it was Keith, yeah.
Yeah, Keith. Yeah. I can't remember. And Alison said that Lassie was movies and a TV show.
Okay, well, there you
so
go.
we were both right. I can't even now remember what I said. I was adamant that it was. I thought it was a film. I'm sure I thought it was a film. I don't know. I'll have to listen back to what I thought.
We were both right,
We were both right.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it's coming back, but I think it's in French. I think so Alison said that I think my favourite episode this series was the Thomas Thorne affair. Loved hearing each of the ghosts telling their version of what happened, and Robin talking about the horse poo on Thomas's lady shoes.
Yeah.
Alison also said, as for spooky settings, I've worked in a lot of hospitals and there were always ghost stories, particularly in the older ones. One palliative care I worked in had a room with 6 beds. A lady whose bed was next to the door rang her buzzer in the middle of the night and told the nurse that the woman diagonally opposite had just climbed out of the windows. When the nurse went to look, the patient was dead in the bed.
Oh, God.
Spooky. And then finally, Caroline said Series 2 is a very strong series throughout, and that their rating is, so top first, The Thomas Thorne Affair, About Last Night, Bump in the Night, The Grey Lady, Reading Weddy, The Perfect Day, although Pat's story is very emotional and is well done, and then The Ghost of Christmas. So...
Oh, they've put The Ghost of Christmas last.
Yeah.
Oh, my word.
I know. Yeah. Bananas. And in Caroline's History Corner, right, this is a lot, and I kind of not sure if you should read this because there's big words that I can't, but I want people to know. From an article in The Week, the first recorded evidence of marriage ceremonies uniting one woman and man dates from about 2350 BC in
Mesopotamia.
That's the one.
It's like, I think it's Afghanistan.
Okay.
Something like that, yeah.
Over the next several hundred years, marriage evolved into a widespread institution embraced by the ancient Hebrews, Greeks and Romans. In medieval times, so the plague ghosts' time, marriages were simply a case of the banns being read 3 times, and if no objection was forthcoming, it was a done deal. All sorts of versions of marriage ceremony were common for people of no great wealth, only some of which involved the church. That's interesting, because I always thought it was like a religious thing.
I guess it's you couldn't afford it back then.
Maybe.
Really. It was just like for lords and ladies, peasants got didn't have a choice.
Marriage didn't become a matter of legal registration until the 19th century. Minimum age for marriage in 1600 was 12 for girls and 14 for boys, as for Humphrey and Sophie, which obviously we're going to come to that soon, which remained the case, rather shockingly, until the Act of 1921 raised the age to 16 for both parties, with a need for parental consent for anyone under 21. It was only recently, 2023, been raised to 18 for everyone. So each of our ghosts will have had very different experiences of weddings and marriage. So that's interesting, isn't it? Go on.
No, which is funny, like when people say, the traditions and stuff like that, and then you can go back and go, well, traditions have radically changed
so
over
much,
time.
yeah.
So like when people are like, it should be back like this, and it's like, well, stuff changes.
Yeah. Caroline also said that same-sex marriages in Roman times, homosexual relationships were seen as perfectly normal and acceptable. By the 16th century, homosexual acts were punishable by death, but it was seen as quite normal for male friends to speak of and to each other in romantic terms. In 1866, marriage was first defined by law as being between a man and a woman, thus preventing any same-sex marriages until the Marriages Same-Sex Couples Bill of 2013.
I remember when that was passed, to be fair.
And I remember a few people that I know got married, which is great. Same-sex relationships have always been more frowned upon for men more than for women. Being a lesbian has never been illegal in the UK, whereas being a gay man was until 1967. And then changing subject completely, Caroline said the Battle of Bosworth, 1485, so exactly right, so 1400. This is a bit of a, thing.
We
So,
took a left turn on that one.
yeah. So yeah, it's really interesting, because, it's great that Caroline gives us all this history, because... it's important because we learn from it, don't we? So, society learns from
history,
all of this, and
although it feels like we're making the same mistakes now that we made years and years ago, and you're like, oh, come on. Yeah.
So I think we've had quite a lot of feedback, which is obviously really good because it means people are listening to what we're saying.
Definitely.
So thank you everyone who sent feedback. We really appreciate it. Have you thought about what your things are? Like your top things? Don't worry, I haven't either. I was too busy collating everyone else's.
Yeah, I was panicking and I was like...
Well, I'll just ask you and see what you think off the top of your head.
Yeah.
So, favourite character so far? Has it changed from series 1?
No, I still think Julian is my favourite character, and I think definitely by the end of this series it's added even more texture to it. Just because, like, I don't know, like, it's a character who in real life would probably wind me up, but because he's like a caricature, it's funny. And also, like, then you see that he has this real life as well underneath all this. So again, it kind of shows you that not everybody is one thing, if you know what I mean. So personally, anyway, that's why I quite like him. But I mean, each of the ghosts have their what's it? I think my favourite time period goes Mary. But
interesting character.
How about you? Favourite
So I've just had a look back, and last time I said Pat.
Has it changed?
Dramatic pause. No, I still really like him.
Yeah.
I still really like his character. I think he's funny, and I think I kind of like his relationship with Alison. Although Kitty obviously is desperate to be Alison's best friend, which is fair enough. And I do think Kitty holds a special place for Alison, and vice versa. So it's a tricky one, but I feel like Pat sometimes he kind of, it's hard to explain. He is like the one that kind of bridges that gap.
Yeah, the most. Yeah.
Because I think he understands Alison more than the other ghosts, and that might be because their time periods are similar.
Yeah. Which is funny because it's not the same with Julian.
Yeah. But he's a very different person, and I think Alison and Pat are more alike than Alison and Julian, not
exactly.
the rest of them. But so yeah, I just kind of really like that relationship that he has with her. That like he's kind of like the one that she would go to if she needed some help with getting the ghosts to do something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say it's still Pat at the moment, but I dare say it might change as we go forward. So your favourite episode or scene, and why?
Favourite, I guess it could be two separate things. Favourite episode would be the Thomas Thorne affair. I'm pretty sure that's what I put as my highest ranked one anyway. Yeah, because I gave that a 9. Yeah, I'd say that's my favourite. I don't know if it has my favourite scene in it though. I do actually think that my favourite scene so far, funnily enough, is probably in this episode. Like, I really like the part with Julian just talking about how Christmas isn't perfect, which is mad because, like, it's weird. I didn't love the episode, but I love that part of it, if you know what I mean. So I don't know, but I think that's mine. How about you?
I've already talked about it extensively.
I guess so, yeah.
So I'm going to say the Christmas episode.
Yeah.
That was what I wrote down as my favourite episode of this series, but I suppose in a way you could kind of say that isn't even part of the series.
Yeah, I guess it is.
So if I had to pick a 1 to 6, I'm not sure what I would pick.
I would say
without
this is
sort
part
of
the series, to be fair, yeah.
Without going back, I'd have to do that. But yeah, I'd say this, and like for me, it has to be the piano scene in that series.
Fair enough.
And then overall feedback on series 2 and comparison to series 1.
Massive improvement, I'd say.
Definitely.
Like, I like series 1,
Same.
but series 2 is like, it feels like it's finding its feet as it knows exactly what it is as a program.
Definitely.
It's got all of the gags from series 1, but now they're introducing like serious stories.
Yeah.
And like mixed with it,
Yeah.
which I think is kind of the hallmark of Ghosts by the end. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a comedy, but it's still got those more serious themes, hasn't it? And serious moments. So yeah, I think the same. Like this, I mean, that's judging by our scores, that's clear that like series 2 is like drastically improved.
I'm interested with the next like series because I can't remember. I remember there was like a jump up in quality from 1 to 2. I'm wondering with 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Sort of like
is it like
keep the same?
Yeah.
I guess we'll see. Thanks for listening. We love to hear what you think, and if you'd like to keep up to date with when new episodes of the podcast are released, you can follow us on our Instagram and our Facebook profile. Just search Haunting Button House. You can also get in touch via email at hauntingbuttonhouse@outlook.com.